Hello and welcome to the second video on Hay-on-Wye and my trip there with Steve, the Outlaw Bookseller. So here we are, we've just left the cinema bookshop and we're heading up to Addyman Books, which is our next port of call. This was a shop we didn't actually go in, but we just had a quick look in their window, and they had a set of the Flashmans and a set of the Patrick O'Briens. And here we are with Addyman Books, and right opposite is Murder and Mayhem, which is their crime specialist bookshop. Have a little look in their window. Those penguin mugs weren't actually official penguin mugs, they were ones that had been produced sort of with a hay theme. Much more interesting to me seemed to be Murder and Mayhem, with their windows chock full of penguins, fontanas, vintage pans. They were incredibly heavy on Agatha Christie, and I know during lockdown she had a massive revival, and I mean massive. Certainly I was selling old editions online, and I was very, very surprised at what they were going for. But back over the road now into Addyman Books. And the overriding, Steve showed me this lovely Michael Moorcock hardback from 1970, which is like a nice signed one there, signed and personalised, £100. Yeah, which he raised an eyebrow at. This is, so once you go in, you go into like a room which is just children's related books. And like some of the other bookshops, they do mix vintage and modern side by side. And as you can see, there's it's very, very packed. Then the room adjacent to the kids' room is like their dedicated SF and fantasy section. This was chock-a-block. And once again, a lot of floor space taken up with stacks of books. So it made it a little bit difficult to look through some of it. It's almost as if Addyman could do with a shop twice the size than what they've currently got. But then you can also see certain books they've got, 6 or 7 on the shelf, so whether those are just new releases or stuff that they've just had in, I don't know. But maybe thinning those out a little bit and putting them into storage would, let the other shelves breathe a little bit. Lots and lots of Doctor Who piles of it on the floor there. Nice to see some early pulps, they're lovely, those. Fantastic Adventures, Amazing Stories, Wonder Stories. Nice British additions to the pulps and digests. And very, very nice run of Ace, a few Ace doubles and some Dells. It was sort of the later Ace doubles rather than the really early ones. But still very nice to see. This is then their A to Z by author surname SF stock. And I suppose in a way you need to be coming back here quite often to catch it when they've had some decent stock come in. So going up the stairs now, it was a bit of a rabbit warren, and clearly like a converted house. And they had a whole bay of vintage Observer hardbacks. The Old Ways there, Robert McFarlane, I can recommend that one. As you can see, every little nook and cranny was filled. This was like the classics bit. Bit of Shakespeare, that sort of thing. This room coming up now evidently used to be a toilet at some point. It's been converted into a place to store books. So I would imagine that on a busy day, Addyman Books gets absolutely rammed. And they could definitely use a bigger shop, judging by how much stock they've got. This is like sort of women's press. Surprised at how few Virago, vintage Viragos that they had there. I thought they'd have a few more. This was the horror section. In all the shops we went in at Hay, there was very little in the way of horror or even vintage horror, and I don't know why that is, whether it's something to do with paperbacks from hell or if the genre is having a bit of a revival in general, but there just didn't seem to be a lot of horror around. This was their sort of music section, which to me, I think all of it was new stock by the look of it. And that was the art was quite nice. They had some really good art books in actual fact, and they mixed in some new and old together again. There's the movie and film section. There are some of the art books, which they had a few piles of newer titles, but a good selection there. But once again, it was packed, it was rammed. Nice little run of king penguins there. A lot of those are art related, of course. And then the sport. At least they had space for a couple of nice chairs to sit down and peruse your books before you buy them. Then we've gone over the road now to Murder and Mayhem. So, as I said, the shop was packed with Agatha Christie's. They had a big run of, well, there's some penguin crime there. Once again, I had a look over it, but there was nothing that I needed myself. With the Christie's, they had virtually all the recent facsimile editions that were published. Well, I say recent, about 10 years now. And they were charging between £10 and £30 for those, which I think £30 seems a bit steep on some of them, but maybe the tail end ones were a bit harder to get than some of the earliest ones. Many copies of Agatha Christie in Fontana. Not quite so many in Pan, and they didn't have any of the particularly notorious Pan covers, the rarer ones. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about there. But yeah, modern authors mixed in with old. Once again, a very, very busy shop, stacks of stuff everywhere. Lots of floor piles, which is not great, but if you've not got the room, that's what you've got to do. Now into the next sort of subsection. There's the Agatha Christie's in Pan. And then moving on to the Fontana ones, the earlier yellow and blue Fontanas. The blues are the very earliest, and the yellow ones. Some of the HarperCollins ones. Then we're on to the 70s and early 80s Fontana editions, of which they're very, very common, and they had even more of them, and they had a lot of them there, as you can see. So if you're after particular Tom Adams covers, you could probably have completed your collection there without too much trouble. However, they were, £7 a pop, so quite expensive. But they were there, if you were looking for them, that's where you could buy them. This is nice. These are in the same sort of bracket, £6-7, which is not overly expensive for those Collins ones. But I did have all of those anyway, so I didn't need to pick any out. Nice just to see them, because you don't often see them. But I don't know how collectible they are or how collected. They are quite old by today's standards, 1930s. There we are. A little bit of true crime there. To be honest, I don't know how many dedicated crime shops are even left in the UK now. This is probably one of the you could probably count them on one hand. So, let's hope it carries on. I know it's been around a long time now, but let's hope it does continue to flourish. Now, this is the upstairs now. Once again, absolutely rammed with stuff, and a nice mixture of old and new interspersed with each other. I guess some of the classics on the table there. Stuff that they sell quite a bit of, but you can't help but feel an extra couple of bookcases wouldn't have gone down a treat. This was interesting. I thought, nice little Collins white circle there. And I saw it was about £20, so I left that one behind. A nice little run of Saint books, of which I found one that I didn't have, the Saint on TV. So what did I think of Addyman Books? Well, both shops and the Crime and Mayhem one were really nicely laid out. Even the second-hand stuff was all strictly A to Z, and it was within genre, so the kids' ones were very nicely laid out. There was the science fiction room. Over the road we've got the crime department. Books everywhere, and there was a mixture of old and new mixed in, which is unusual. It's an interesting way to do it. Whereas in the cinema bookshop, the books were coming in at, say, £2.50, the paperbacks £2.50, £3, £4 a pop. In Addyman, they were more £6.50, £6.95, which is about what you pay for a brand new paperback. And with vintage paperbacks, they may be old, but I like to get a little bit of value for money. So £3.50, £4 really is my sort of limit. So I did only pick up 3 books, and I'm pleased with what I've got. There was a nice penguin that I got, a little anthology, that's Savoy Books that Steve recommended to me by Michael Moorcock, and also the Saint on TV, which is a late end pan that I've never seen before. So I don't feel like I've got nothing out of it, and I've followed Addyman on Instagram for many years, since I've been on it and since they've been on it, and they've always got a nice selection of penguins, but as I sort of expected, nothing that I really wanted. So it's not the end of the world. I was pleased with it. It was lovely to have a look, but there wasn't really anything there that I really wanted for my own collection, except those few bits that I bought, which I thought were worth it. Anyway, that is, in summary, our visit to Addyman Books. So good. I know my friend Steve bought a few bits and pieces, so he's very happy. And that's Steve, the Outlaw Bookseller. Say hello, Steve.
Hello.
Okay, so here we are at Richard Booth's, and these are apparently were the very first bookshops to set up in Hay-on-Wye. And a beautiful frontage here leading into what is quite a high-class booksellers. Now, Steve knew the way to go, so he was immediately downstairs into the vast areas of fiction, crime and science fiction and western second-hand stock. And there's an awful lot to see, as you can see. Once again, they've got a selection of newer books. They've got some remaindered stock as well. lots and lots of shelves of it. So Steve's straight in, looking at the SF, and he's looking for his beloved A formats with unbroken spines, perfection, SF perfection. Certainly they're getting very, very scarce as time is motoring on. I decided to give you the benefit of the doubt and film sort of the crime sections first, and I was really surprised at some of the stuff I was coming across here, and it wasn't overly expensive. That's the thing, it just wasn't that dear. And because the place is so much bigger than poor Addyman's, which are struggling with space, there's room to let everything breathe, and you could browse it comfortably. There wasn't stuff all stuck all over the floors. It was nicely out and shoppable, and that's what really makes the difference. The stuff's been selling because it's cheap. You know, it's priced to sell and shift, and I think that just makes a huge difference. A few Christie's there. This is quite nice. This is that's actually the British first for Trouble Is My Business. It came out as a Penguin first. It generally sells for about £15, and that copy was £8. So that wasn't, I didn't think, overly expensive. Although I've already got it, and you know, last thing I need is to be doubling up on vintage Penguins. So I've left that one behind for someone else to find. But yeah, £8 a good price. That's about half the going rate online. So there are still some bargains to be had. And of course, you know, obviously checking out all the old Penguins as I see them. Yeah, obviously pretty well shopped, but that's a good thing. I mean, you can see that this stuff is selling, and that's what it's all about. Richard Booth's got a huge shop there, so I guess it's all about having decent turnover. Not a lot of point having the books just sat on the shelf, is there? Here's some of the westerns. Now, I say there was western down here. There was like a bay of it, but it wasn't like stacks and stacks of it. I was quite pleased to see some of the Adam Steele books, but I didn't see like a single Edge title, not one, in all of Hay. So whether they're just being snapped up these days, I don't know. That was one that I ended up keeping, quite a nice later numbered pan that I didn't have. There's mint as well. But this shop would have taken a long time to go through properly, and you almost sort of need to move to Hay for a week to check everything out properly. Nice, just general stock, and some good stuff there. It really is. Some of their SF stock now. And they had a few comic books as well. Really, so much to look at. It was fantastic. Okay then, so what did I think of Richard Booth? Fantastic. I'd say probably it's a toss-up between here and the Cinema Bookshop, which one was best of the three that we've been to. I thought the prices were really good. £2.50, £2 for a vintage paperback, that's really good. £2.50, £3, it's good. It seems a bit more value for money. There was loads of choice, rows and rows and rows of science fiction. my friend Steve, of course, who's filming. Thank you very much, Steve.
No problem.
He's picked up a big stack of books. I've picked up 2 big stacks of books, which we'll go through in a minute. And it's a really sort of nice atmosphere. It's very well presented. It's a big bookshop with lots to see here, both new and old. So it's a mixture of both. But on the whole, if you're visiting Hay, this is definitely somewhere where you want to come, because there's an awful lot here to see. Very friendly staff again, very chatty, and she covered, have you left anything left down there? But I said yes, there's plenty left, but it was good, a good visit here. I would definitely come back again. Right, so these were the 3 books that I bought from Addyman Books. So this one was very, very nice. Beautiful unbroken spine, and it's one I don't have, so I'm particularly keen to pick up any Penguin SF that I don't already have. And although this was £6.95, there we are, £6.95, it is a really, really nice one, guaranteed, the Hugo winners, so a guarantee of quality in most respects, so I should look forward to having a look through that one. Then we also bought this one. This is Michael Moorcock, and this is a Savoy Books one, which well, we'll get into those in another time, but you don't often see their books around, and this is a really cool one from Michael Moorcock. And then the last one I got over the road in Murder and Mayhem was this slightly later Saint book. So it hasn't got a pan number, but it's part of the pan A prefix, so it's right on the cusp. It's got 4 shillings or 20p, so right on the cusp of what I actually collect vintage pan wise. This one, £4.99. It is a really nice mint unread one. It's a first edition from 1970, and once again, like Saint books, this is one I didn't even know I didn't have, and I thought I had them all, so definitely worth grabbing those. It's a bit of a shame, but I really love Addyman, and I've followed them for years on Instagram, but I guess because of where my collection is now, they just didn't have anything else that I actually wanted to buy, but that's not their fault. It is what it is. Now we'll move on to what I picked up in Richard Booth, which was quite a revelation, to be honest. So I'm very, very pleased with what I got there. Quite a big pile in the end. They had a big run of these, which weren't, I don't think, expensive, like £2.50 a pop for these, and they had almost a full run. So 30 of these were published, and you know my love of an SF anthology. And these are really, really nice. This is the original, as far as I can see, they only ever had one printing. A few of them had hardback editions. So this was published in hardback 64, the Corgi paperback edition 1964. And I picked up as many of these as I could get that were in nice nick. So there's number 2. Number 3. I mentioned these to Steve. He said he's got some signed by some of the contributors, such as Christopher Priest. Number 4. Number 5, they're very, very much of their time, aren't they? There's 6 here. But I'm sure there's some real gems hidden amongst this. Slot number 7. So I'm going to try and fill in the ones that I'm missing, and when I do, I shall I'll do a dedicated video on the series. But none of them are that hard to pick up. But these were really, just really, really nice spines and stuff on them. So these copies were so nice, I didn't want to leave them behind. They're virtually unread. I have some more of those in a minute. Some of the other bits I picked up was a Robert Heinlein in Mayflower Dell, one that I don't recognise. I got quite a bit of Heinlein. A couple more Penguins. Frederick Poole, sci-fi again, SF, and 3 to Conquest, another one I was missing. So that was good to get those. This, I think, was perhaps my favourite find of the day. It's the movie tie-in to She. Ursula Andress there, you recognise her from Dr. No, of course. This is a Hammer film tie-in, which I do collect. £2. Very, very pleased with that. That was a beauty. That would go for a lot more online, I'm sure. This is the Foursquare reissue of Starship Troopers. I have got the original and this reissue, believe it or not, but this one is a beautiful copy, and I'm going to upgrade my incredibly tatty one. Now we're back to a few more new writings in SF as the final volume, to my knowledge, that they did. I think that was the last one, 30, which incidentally is the same amount that were published for the Pan Book of Horror Stories. 28 and 26. Rapidly running out of room here. You can see what a great visit it was. Number 24 here. Give these a bit more room. 23. They're so of their time, aren't they, these? They really are. This is one that was recommended by Steve again, The Sleeping Bomb. I'm sure he recommended this one, but it's a nice early New English library. Great jacket on it. Just looks really interesting, that one. So pick that one up, The Sleeping Bomb. This was one of the few numbered pans that I picked up. It's a reissue of The Gun, C.S. Forester, who I really like. Put those down there. Here's another odd pan that I was missing, Spectrum 3. This is the Kingsley Amis anthology. This is one of the M series, so pleased to get that one. We got another Foursquare, which was All the Traps of Earth, Clifford Simak. Nice Foursquare there, number 993. This was great because we were only talking about these books on the way up to Hay, Steve and I. The Good Guys and the Bad Guys. So this is by Joe Millard. So Joe Millard wrote the tie-in to The Good, the Bad and the Uglies. And this was also a film with Robert Mitchum and George Kennedy. Not one that I've seen. But for £3, I was going to pick it up. It's a nice movie tie-in. This is one that Steve recommended to me, definitely. The Satan Bug. Ian Stewart, now known to be Alistair MacLean. Bit of a Survivor's vibe. Only £1.75 that. It's brilliant, isn't it? And there was so much of that sort of stuff there if you had the time to go through it. And another Foursquare SF here. Wardmore, Bring the Jubilee. Don't know much about that one, but it was a nice one. And the very last one we're looking at is this one, which this is the sort of mid to late 70s version of it. I may actually have this one in an earlier pan printing. It's The Furies by Keith Roberts. It's a bit like John Wyndham-esque, and according to Steve, it's the most like John Wyndham without actually being John Wyndham, and it's about giant wasps. So I shall look forward to this. In actual fact, I'm taking it with me on holiday as my my top read. Maybe I'll read on the plane, you never know. So there we go. So I believe I got a really good haul out of Richard Booth's, and what a difference having a few books priced reasonably makes in what you're willing to pay. You're willing to put your hand in your pocket a bit more because you feel that you're getting value for money. What I unfortunately found with Addyman was that his books were expensive, almost twice as much as other shops in the town, and consequently you were falling over stuff. There was stuff all over the floors. I'd say the shop was too full to browse comfortably, and that can only be because it's a bit overpriced. I'm really disappointed with that side of it. Now, sadly, out of the 20 odd bookshops that are in Hay, we were only able to sort of look in about 4 or 5, so we've only scratched the surface, but that does mean that in the future we will have a bit more to go through when hopefully we can arrange to go up again together. So once again, thank you very much to Steve, the Outlaw Bookseller, for being my guide for the couple of days in the book barn and in Hay-on-Wye. It was invaluable. If you've not already subscribed to Steve's channel, please do so. It's in the description down below. And thanks again, Steve, for your sterling camera work today. Thanks very much for watching this time round. If you've not subscribed already, please hit that subscribe button and give the video a thumbs up. Thanks for watching today, and I shall see you again very soon. Bye.